Welcome to Mind Your Business, the podcast that goes straight to the core of what drives entrepreneurial success. I'm your host, Max Fortune, and with over 30 years of experience building businesses and guiding others to do the same, each week we explore the mindsets, strategies, and real-life stories that distinguish thriving entrepreneurs. We also try to deliver the candid insights that you need to elevate your business and reach new heights. So if you've tuned in and received just one piece of advice that you can use to make your business journey a little easier, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to Mind Your Business Expert on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching or listening to this podcast on. It's a little thing that goes a long way to keep the podcast going. So just pause right now and just like and subscribe. Thank you. But come back. Today I'm joined by Stephen Dorsey, originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's a graduate of La Roche University and a seasoned information technology leader with over 30 years of experience. Stephen began as a systems engineer working on projects for MCI, AT&T, and Sprint at a time when minorities were rare in the IT field. He then transitioned into IT project management, where for 25 years he managed multi-million-dollar initiatives for Fortune 200 and 500 companies, including Delta Airlines, Home Depot, Siemens, Macy's, Technology, PNC Bank, and United Healthcare. Some really great names out there. But you know what? Stephen didn't stop there. He later became a certified life coach, and now he helps individuals rediscover direction after retirement, job loss, or life transitions. So he's also the founder of 1 Million Cups Atlanta, building a space for entrepreneurs to connect and grow. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. We're going to get a lot of good information. I just know it. But before we dive into our conversation with Stephen Dorsey, let's set the stage with our Mindset Minute. And this is where we take a moment to focus on a powerful nugget of wisdom designed to help you push through the challenges of the week. It's a quick mental reset to keep you sharp, motivated, and ready to tackle whatever comes your way. So let's get into it. Now, success is not the same as alignment. You can be highly paid and highly unfulfilled. You can be respected and still feel stuck. This week's shift, ask yourself, am I climbing the right ladder? Now, Stephen, let's talk about how you knew it was time to pivot and win.
Okay. After working projects for 30-something years, right, you get a feeling in your belly, right? And the best word I can describe is you're pregnant.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, right? You're pregnant with something that you really don't know what it is. You know it's a passion, but you just don't know why you feel a certain way. And so even as I was working these projects and doing great and having a good life, there was always something deep inside me that said there's more to life than what you're giving. Right.
Wow.
So some people decide to find out what that is, and some people don't.
Wow.
Right. But the thing about it is that baby's going to grow. It keeps growing. It keeps showing up. It keeps bothering you when things go wrong in your career, and you're like, well, why am I not getting what I need? And then the baby shows up and says, because it's not what you're supposed to be doing, right? This isn't your passion. And so that's what happened with me. I got kind of to the end of my rope and project management, and I said, I know I'm supposed to be doing something else. And that's where I started to make the transition. The thing about transition, it's kind of like 3 phases.
Okay.
The first phase is, it may be the beginning, but it's also the end. And what I mean by that is it's the end of what you've been doing, but it's also the beginning of the transition.
Wow.
Right? And so the middle part of the transition is where you kind of feel like you're in a midlife crisis and that you're not sure what's going on in your life, why you feel a certain way. But that's part of the transition. That's part of the baby wanting to come out, right?
Wow.
And then the end part is when you find out what that thing is supposed to be that you're doing, and you become motivated, you become hungry, and you just can't get enough. And that's kind of what happened to me.
Wow. Pausing for a second on purpose. How's his levels? I want to make sure that the mic's not really close, but I want to make sure his mic is good before we continue. Mics are good? Okay, good. All right, we're back.
All right.
That was a great answer, by the way. I mean, that was a really, really great answer. And I was just thinking about when I got pregnant. So yeah, and it happened really early for me. It was crazy. But anyway, I want you to kind of share with the audience what was it like entering IT at a time when there were very few minorities in the field. What was that like?
It was, you always had to prove yourself, right? Because a lot of times in the meetings, it's either I'm the only black or maybe one other black, and there was always challenges. Whenever you would say, well, you know, this is what's happening, you would always get challenged on it, and you always had to prove yourself, right, no matter what. And back then, I mean, there wasn't even any Eastern Indian, there wasn't any Mexican, it was just mostly white and black, right? But as a black person, you know, they felt like you didn't belong, so you always had to prove yourself, right?
Wow.
And so it was difficult. It was difficult. But, you know, I stayed with it, and as time went on, I started to see more minorities coming into IT. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and that's it's definitely has to be difficult being a trailblazer. And I one of the things it's funny sometimes perception sometimes is people perceive a less than situation, but I would imagine anybody who's got to where you did in your field, you didn't get there easily.
No.
Didn't come. Yeah. So I think sometimes, it's just sometimes you're even more qualified because we just don't get those doors open easily.
Right.
You know. So if
Right.
you're there because
Right.
there's a reason. You know what, Steve? I want to ask you, like, I mean, that's a lot to deal with. And so, what lessons did you kind of learn early in corporate America that still kind of guide you today?
Well, a couple things. In corporate America, right, you're always going to be challenged, right, for what you know. And you have to continue to have faith. You have to continue to believe in your talent, right, what you're good at.
Yeah.
And so taking that and growing that has helped me transition into other fields, right? So you're always going to be asked more than one time, are you sure this is what's happening? Even though you know, right?
Yeah.
They're always going to ask you. So you just got to continue to have faith. You got to continue to fight. You have to continue to show what you know. And a lot of times it feels frustrating, right?
Yeah.
But you just got to keep going, right? And so it's interesting because my son is kind of going through the same thing. And, you know, he's been in corporate America for many years. And, you know, we always have conversations about, you know, Dad, I know I'm better at something else, right? I know I'm better. And I said, yeah, just take these cookies, right, that you learn in corporate and take them to your entrepreneurial spirit, you know, what you want to do, right? And so I said, I know it's tough. I know it's frustrating, but you're learning something, whether you realize it or not, you're learning something. And you are able to take those things that you learn and work for yourself. So, you know, you got to go through the fire, right?
Yes.
That's the only way to get to become a diamond, right?
Yeah,
to become, you know, to have worth. And so take it, right? Take it, learn from it what you can, and then when it's time to leave, you got those cookies that nobody can ever take away from you, and you can share those cookies and make yourself successful.
Yeah,
so,
that's great sage advice. And sometimes there's just things that you, especially if you're going to run a business yourself, it's kind of good to see what other corporations do, what they do great, what they don't do so great, and that gives you a great framework of how you could do things better. But a lot of them have structure already in place.
Yes.
That that is probably the biggest thing. That sometimes if you're just starting off in business, that's the things that a lot of business lack is that structure or that systems that successful companies have because they've been doing it a while. So that's definitely a takeaway, a good takeaway.
Oh yeah, you things run a lot smoother when you have a system, right? When you're able to create a system, and things tend to be easier, right? If you don't think systematically on things that you need to do, it's going to be hard for you in business.
And you know, systematically, when I think of the word system, I think of a predictable method, something you do and it's predictable over and over again. And predictability systems, those are transferable and those are teachable things. And so those are things that you can grow and scale, you know, business with.
Yeah.
You know what? You've managed like multi-million-dollar projects, you know, and in your opinion, Stephen, what separates good leaders from great ones? And so the experiences that you have, what would you say?
I would say what a great leader is willing to not lead, right? So what I mean by that is a great leader should be pushing their people to be great leaders themselves. Right? Because the only way you become a leader is by doing. Right? And if you're a leader and all you do is tell your people, do this, do that, do it this way, they're not learning. They're not growing. So, and I've had good leaders at like at United Healthcare, right? I had a really good female leader, and she always pushed back on us. She always said, well, when we come to her with a problem, well, what do you think we should do, right? So she would always push back on us, and it would always have us think, right? And in that thinking, that allowed us to be better people, be better leaders, right? And I mean, it was fantastic working for her because she didn't try to put you down, or she didn't try to do things her way. She wanted you to be creative. She wanted you to be a leader. And that, to me, is a good leader, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know, I think that, or I was saying that that good leaders were once good followers.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so if you find somebody that you can learn from, it, you learn how to lead by sometimes being led. Right. So, no, I agree with you that it's good when you can get good tutelage. And so, you know, I want to know what is the biggest reason in your mind? You've been on some of these big projects. And, so what would you say the biggest reason that enterprise projects fail, they don't work?
For the larger enterprise projects, you always have to deal with people that are trying to build their own kingdom, right? And they have their own things that they want to help them, right, be better. But the difference is people working together, right? It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It doesn't matter what you're going to do in the future. If you can come together as a group, right, and work together and all have the same goal and enterprise in that project being successful, then that's typically what works. What doesn't work is when people always want to do their own thing. They want to show the boss that they're capable, right? But that doesn't help the team, right? That doesn't help the team be successful, right? And you always have those type people that, I want to do it this way because this makes me look good. Right, that's not good, right? And so sometimes you got to kick those people off the project, right? So if you are a rower on a boat and you refuse to row, guess what? We got to get a new rower because you're not part of the team, right? You're not helping us, you're hurting us.
Well, you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that same scenario. I always talk about, like, if you ever rowed, really, honestly, the way you turn around is one person putting their oar in the water. And the faster everybody rows, the faster you turn back and go in the opposite direction. So that's a great analogy. So every one person not doing their part turns the whole project around, you know? So that's, I just wanted to piggyback on that rowing analogy. So you've worked on these amazing projects with all these different companies, and it's got to be a lot of pressure, you know. And
It
so
is.
I want to know kind of how do you manage pressure when there's like millions of dollars on the line? How did you handle that those kind of projects?
Well, each company has its own structure. Each company you have to adapt to how they do things, right?
Right.
And so for me, what really worked for me is to make sure that I was the nucleus of the project, right?
Got it.
That everything came through me so I could understand the best decision to make,
Wow.
right? And in most projects, you typically spend more money up front, than you do later on because everything is gearing up.
Right.
But what was really my pet peeve is that for somebody to had information and it didn't come through me, right? And I find out about it later,
Oh, wow.
right? And that puts pressure on you because it doesn't matter, right? Who caused the failure as a project manager is your fault, right? Well, why didn't you know this, Steve, right? And so anytime I started a project, I made sure everybody knew I'm the nucleus. Everything comes through me. Any type of information I need to know about, right? If that means we got to have an ad hoc meeting to discuss what's going on, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
So communication is really, 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 really big. So, yeah.
Like I said, that makes a tremendous amount of sense. And it's kind of making me think about my next question, which is what skills do most professionals that you've had underestimate as an important skill to have when it comes to leading a team, leading a business, or being a leader? You know, what would you say that most people kind of like underestimate as a important skill?
One of the most important skills that you need to have is being able to communicate, right? Being able to communicate up, that means talking with a CEO, a VP. You need to know how to communicate with them, and also communicate down. Whether you're talking to a tech that needs to fix something, your communication skills are very, very, very important. And so you have to learn them, right? You have to learn how to communicate, because if you can't communicate, if you can't talk, if you can't reach people, then it's going to be very difficult for you to move forward, right? Not only in IT, but in any business, right? You have to be able to take what's in your mind and get it out so that people can understand you. So that's very important.
And you know, when I think of communication, I think of languages. They're different languages. And
Right.
How important is it to even understand the language of the person you're communicating to? I think that when I try to talk to tech people, I try to use tech terms, you know,
Right.
because it helps them understand you better. And,
Right.
and honestly, they don't look at you in that condescending way that techs do
Right.
when you're not talking their
Right.
talk. But I think that's, would you agree that that's kind of like a good way, when you're talking about communication, the importance of that is kind of taking some time to kind of learn the language that person you're communicating to will be able to receive the information that you're sending. Does that make sense? Does that sound like?
It makes sense. I don't have a problem saying, can you just put this where the goats can get it, right? Just put it as simple as possible, right? So I understand. I know you're technical. I know you understand, but most technical people, they can break it down for you. They could put it where the goats are. They can, make you understand. So, yeah, there's going to be barriers, right? But somebody has to say, look, let's just step back. Let's just find a common ground that we can communicate, and let's just talk about it, right? And so that's the best way to do it, right? To try to find common ground in communication. And it's interesting that, whether you got to use analogies, right? Use analogies if you have to, but at least the communication is made. So,
And I think it's about identifying something that a person, because when you're trying to communicate, identifying something that will identify with that person or resonate with that person. But I like the goat scenario. I really like to steal that one. And Stephen, you've had this ultra successful career, and but you kind of alluded to this early. What made you feel like something else was calling you? Like, what happened? Was there any particular thing? Was there a particular moment, or when did that happen? Where you just felt like something else was calling you?
it was, growing up in Pittsburgh, right? You always heard, get a good job, have a couple kids, get married, right? That's success, right? So I did that at an early age, right? Was married, couple kids. We was traveling overseas, had a big house, everything was good, but I wasn't happy, right? So, and I couldn't understand why am I not happy? This is success, right? I'm living success, right?
Right.
But what I didn't realize was that the people that was telling me that was their success. It wasn't my success, right?
Yeah.
So I had to find that,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It took a while.
Yeah.
I had to find that, and I'm like, what is it? And I became hungry, right? I start, reading books, listening to podcasts, talking to people, and things happen when they're supposed to happen, right? And that's what's hard for people in life. They think things will happen when they want them to happen.
Right.
Everything that I've been doing for my coaching and 1 Million Cups, everything has just happened, right? It hasn't been a lot of energy spent from me. Things just kind of fall into place. And I've always, read in books that success is easy, right? But they never define it. They never define how easy it is. And it's just like, I'm kind of uncomfortable sometimes because I'm used to working, right?
Right.
Things are just happening like, out of the blue. Things are just happening, coming together. Just like, when you called me and I was like, yeah, this is perfect because I'm getting ready to, kick off the 1 Million Cups. So things just kind of fall into place. But you have to be ready for it mentally, right? Because success can come, and if you're not mentally ready for it, you'll lose it, right? Yes. So it's important to grow. It's important to go through those tough times, man. It's important to be thrown in the fire because guess what it's doing, right? It's getting you to where you need to be as far as being successful. And it'll come. It'll come, definitely.
I wish I had this. You said it was easy success. I said, oh my gosh, okay.
Things fall into place for you, but it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, right? Not when you want it to happen, right? And so that's where people lose the patience, right? It's like, why isn't this going the way I want? And then you start to do things, right, that you don't need to do right now, and it gets you in trouble, right? And it's like, I went out there, I did this. Why isn't it working? Because it's not time.
Right.
You're not ready up here.
Right.
Right. And so once you're ready up here, it'll come. It'll definitely come. And it took me a while to figure that out, man. I was really frustrated. Right.
Wow.
So, but having that faith, right, understanding, as God says, it in your time, right, in His time, right.
So it's kind of like that old adage when the student is ready, the teacher appears, like that old Miyagi saying.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So it's, I have to agree with you. There is, like, I guess when you have a journey, you have a calling.
Right.
Things do just line up for that, and so no, I think that's really great. And I know that going from having a career that's everything is lined up. You have to go through careers. Like I said, it's different than being an entrepreneur, being in your own space, and even different than what you're doing now. So do you think, was it kind of scary pivoting for you into life coaching, coming from corporate America and then you're kind of going into that space, so?
The reason I'm laughing is because on my projects that I was working, I was coaching and didn't even know it.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? I didn't even know I was actually coaching people because once I became certified and I started looking back, I'm like, hey, I've already been coaching, right?
Yeah.
And so when I decided to transition into being a coach, it was just easy,
Yeah,
right? There
wow.
was some techniques that I needed to learn, things like that. But it was easy because I was already doing it,
Wow.
right? And in life, a lot of people, so I'll give you an example. I was at Starbucks, right, doing some work, and it was kind of crowded in there. And there was a young lady in there, and I said, "You mind if I share the table with you?" And she said, "No, no, no, come on." So we just started talking, and I asked her what she did, and she said, "I'm an accountant." I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, cool." I said, "So you like working with numbers?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "But you're an accountant." She said, "No." She said, I'm really would like to be an artist." I said,
Mm.
"Oh, okay.
Like a,
Okay." And
like an
I
artist.
said painting and things like that. And so as we're talking, she was telling me that I guess a group of people went to some paint and sip or something like that, and they had a contest, and she won first prize.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. Was that difficult for you? Or was it easy for you?" She said it was real easy. I didn't hardly put forth any effort. I said, "That's your passion.
Mm.
That's what you're supposed to be doing because it's easy." And so she like had a deer in the headlights look
Wow.
at me, right? And
Wow.
I said, I told her she's pregnant. I said, "It'll come.
Yeah.
It'll come."
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of you right now you're in a phase where you're just working, but you also need to be discovering, right,
Yeah.
and thinking. And so, yeah. And so, have you ever heard of Ikigai?
I no.
Okay. Ikigai is a Japanese methodology. And so, bear with me because sometimes I get them confused. Ikigai it's four things. It's um, do what you love, do what you're good at, do what you can get paid to do, and do what the world needs, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
when those four things come together, right, that's your ikigai, and it helps you to find your passion.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I'm
Wow. That's
sorry, man.
no, 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 no. That's good stuff. Listen, I always love when I kind of learn something or hear something I've never
Right.
heard before. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that. And when I
Yeah.
look
Check
back at
it
this
out.
episode, I'm gonna definitely check that out. And it's so funny you're talking about this lady who was an accountant. I actually was an accounting major
Oh,
in
okay.
college,
Uh-huh.
but it's funny you're asked her that question. I didn't really. I kind of got through a couple of years, the first 2 years of that, and realized, okay, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
But I just wanted to know what my accountant knew. So
Yeah,
that's why I
right.
was taking it. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, just all the time. But there's certain skills that you need to
Right.
understand. There's always going to be money involved. Somebody's counting it, and I wanted it to be me.
Right.
I wanted to
Right. Makes
understand how that
sense.
worked. You know.
Makes sense.
So yeah, but that was my little thing. But I think it's super important for fulfillment. Getting back to what you're saying about, it's like you could tell when you're not where you're supposed to be and you're out of position. You know.
Right.
And so it's important to know that and to not ignore that pregnant feeling, as you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But how even kind of knowing when you kind of get that part where you kind of know, hey, something's not right. I'm not feeling like I used to feel here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when it's time though to reinvent yourself, or what is that? How do you maneuver that?
Well, and I can just speak for me. It's you get to a point where it's what you've been doing for a long time no longer gives you drive,
Yeah.
right? If like I've been doing project management for so long, and people always call me and hey, we got this great project, we think you'd be great for it, and I'm like, no, I'm a pass. I'm a pass on this one, and knowing that it's a good opportunity, but I know in my gut, in my heart, that it's time to move on, right? And you'll know it, right?
Yeah.
You will definitely know it because you'll have this feeling that you don't want to do it no more,
Yeah.
right? And then there's a period where you're lost, right? Where you're lost of, okay, I want to transition to something else, but I don't know what, right? And that's what I kind of do in my coaching. I tell them, I ask them questions, I do a discovery,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times in that discovery, you find out what people really want to do, right? And they're like, oh, but that's too easy, that's not for me. but it's the things that are easy for you are typically hard for other people because it's for you, right? Yeah. And that's where people go wrong. They say, it's just too easy, right? It's easy for me, but people come to you for that. People tell you, "Oh, you're good at that. You should think about doing more of that." And you're like, "Oh no, but that is what you're supposed to be doing."
But isn't that strange that we the things that come easy to us,
right?
And I think I think a lot about artists or like a music artist, and a lot of times you hear the saying starving artists. A lot of times the artists get their skill is gifting in music, and it's not the business side of it a lot of times for those guys, and so it's kind of, I guess, what leads to those things is just but if people could do, like you were saying, what you were doing, it's like understanding how money works or how things work, and it's just interesting that it's about following your gut, following what feels right to you. And sometimes the things that feel right or feel too easy sometimes feel too easy. It's like this can't be something that can I don't know, can manifest anything. And I wrote a couple books in my time, and my very first book was a book called Success. And I wrote a chapter on what I call the Michael Jordan theory. And my theory with Michael Jordan, I've never met the man, but my theory is that that if he never made the NBA, he still would have been on the playgrounds playing. He was that competitive. He would have been on the playgrounds playing for no money. Right. So if you go out in life and you find that one thing that you would do for free, that's really kind of how you find your passion. And I don't know we get taught that enough, or that gets embraced enough, because there's a way to make money at doing things you're passionate. I guess I'll say this: a lot of times people get it confused, and that kind of leading me right into the question I have for you, is that sometimes people think that if it's your passion project, you can't really make money doing something you really enjoy doing. And I'm like, why not? Right. And that's really how fulfillment truly happens. We have to take care of ourselves, and if you can find that one thing you would do for free and find a way to make money at it, you really are working in your sweet spot, in my opinion. Right. So my question to you though is like, what would you say is the biggest misconception about like career transitions, and somebody's kind of transitioning careers or kind of making that decision? What are some of the kind of like the biggest misconceptions? We're kind of talking about some of it right now, but what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you have felt as you're coaching people through making a difference or changing?
People, I found, they have these thoughts in their head, right? And so until they get it out of their head and get it out, right, to the universe or to somebody, it only makes sense to them. And so Einstein said that the same mind that caused the problem cannot be the same mind to solve the problem, right? So that means you have to have someone else listen to you. You have to have someone else hear what you're thinking about, right? And so one of my clients, I think about her. Her name is Azarine, and she was one of my first coaching clients, right? And so Azarine was a hairdresser, right? And so when we talked, she said, Steve, I want to help our people. I want to help them financially. I want to show them a better way, right? And so as we talked, she decided to quit doing hair, and she started working for New York Life.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
Max, in like 3 months, she was the top. You hear me? The top in her office as far as, selling investments, helping people. And, she's like, Steven, I don't know what this is. I said, it's what you're supposed to be doing, sweetie, right? And so you have to have somebody to listen to you, right? Yeah. And so that's what coaches do, right? They listen, right? And a lot of times they tell you what you said.
Right.
That's not what I said. Yes. That's how it came out, right? And so a lot of times we have so much going on in our mind, right? But we never talk to somebody to get it out to see if it made sense. Right, and so a lot of my coaching is really about changing perspective, right? Well, have you thought about it this way? No, I haven't. Oh, maybe you should consider that, because you're only thinking one way, right? And you don't know no other way because nobody else has told you think about it this way, as opposed to how you've been thinking about it for years. And so that's the biggest thing I realized, is that people, you gotta get it out. You gotta talk to people, and that's why it's so important to do that, right?
Yeah.
So. Did I answer the question?
You did. You did. And you're kind of you're just perfectly kind of leading right into the next question for you. So thank you for that. And so my next question was going to ask you about the patterns that you see with. I like this young lady who feels stuck. Like so what are those kind of patterns look like, and how do you help people get unstuck?
The biggest thing I realized, Max, is that when I first start coaching someone, the conversation is one way, right? The conversation is very not sure, right? Should I be doing this, right? And so after I coach somebody for a while, the reason I know that they're changing is because their conversation has changed, right? It's, no longer, I'm not sure if I could do this, Stephen, to, hey, I am killing this. I am going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm like, okay, your perspective has changed. You've learned, right, that where you were in the beginning, you've grown. You've moved to another level. And so a person's conversation, you can always tell where they are, right? You can always tell by their conversation. That's why a lot of times I just listen to folks. I listen to what they say, right, and how they say it. And then, a lot of times I'll bring up a different perspective. But for me, I always say it's like my ABCs. Always be coaching, right? No matter what conversation you're having with somebody, I typically coach them, right? And, there's been times people call me, what's your opinion on this? And it's like, I really should be charging you for this, right? But, I don't. I help them. So the biggest thing is getting what's circling in your mind, you trying to resolve as yourself, right? Get it out and talk to somebody and just get a different perspective. Because a lot of times that different perspective helps you go further, helps you see the problem differently. So, and that's the biggest pattern, right? I've noticed their conversation changes, and when I give them a different perspective, their eyes light up. It's like, oh, okay, I never thought about that. So, yeah.
Wow. So, what, with most of us, I guess what we do, we completely identify with what we do for a career.
Right.
So when it comes time to kind of losing a job, or I don't know if you ever lost a job or retired. You all have one of the stories. They say if you haven't been fired 2 or 3 times, you're probably not worth your salt. But it doesn't feel good when it does happen. I'm sure it does. I've experienced it. And I'll briefly kind of go 30 seconds into this thing for me, but it's kind of none of this is scripted. I'm just kind of like going.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
It made me think about this a chapter in the same book that I was telling you about success, and it's I wrote a chapter about being fired up, and this whole kind of concept is making me think about. I was as a young guy, I was new with my family. I'm in my early 20s. I was selling cars for a living.
Okay.
Cars, man, is hard. Those are long hours.
Really?
Yeah, you're 10, 12 hours in the dealership, and especially if you get someone buying a car. It takes like 8 hours to sell a car.
Wow.
I mean, not 8, but about 6. It takes a long time to sell a car, It's crazy, but I was in there for long hours. And I remember at that time I was making $1,000 a month. I was taking care of a family of 3 on $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And the place I was working for, they hired 5 guys, 5 new guys, and they only would keep 1. They didn't tell us that in the beginning, but I wasn't the one they kept,
Wow.
So I got fired or I got let go. I took a second job. And the second job I was making $1,500 a month,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm there 3 months. Stephen, I get fired again.
Wow.
So I had never been fired before that, and I got fired twice in 6 months.
Wow.
And that does something to your
Psyche.
yeah, everything, and your family. You gotta
Uh-huh.
go home and hear that. you know, especially
Yeah.
So the crazy thing that happened with those two things happening back to back like that,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it strips you down and makes you take an opportunity that you would have never taken
Right.
before.
Right.
So I took the opportunity selling vacuum cleaners door to door,
Oh, okay.
knocking on doors. I'm a super introvert. People don't really, when I tell people that, they don't believe me. But
Right.
man, I'm like and back then I was a hyper introvert. And that's what happened to me at the car dealer. I wasn't great. I had all the product knowledge, but I just didn't have I wasn't the gumption to go out there and talk to those guys. I would just wait my turn, and it doesn't work that way.
Right.
But I got in this thing with sales, with selling these vacuum cleaners door to door, man. And that just, like you're kind of talking about how you kind of find your chi or your that thing that just fits you. I took a job I would never took. It's 100% commission for the first time in my life. And man, I think I told you the Toyota I was selling, making $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. This was a long, long time ago, 30 some odd years ago.
Right.
So that wasn't horrible, but it was like the equivalent of making $28,000 a year today. You're not setting the world on fire,
True.
but I was just getting out in the world. So I go from that to making $1,500, about $18,000 a year.
Right.
So I was doing a little better, you know. But then I go take this job that I would never took before. I don't have it. Those two jobs had salary, no salary, and then that job I made $50,000.
Okay.
And like I said, 30 years ago, that was pretty decent money.
Right.
You know.
Right.
30, 40 years, nothing now, not much now, I should say, but yeah. So anyway, I was just saying that sometimes things happen, and we, you know, those shifts happen. I was saying that things don't happen to us; they happen for us. You know, and so sometimes things like that can happen for a person. And I wanted you to. I'm sorry, I don't want to. I had a question in all of
Well,
that.
no, just yeah,
Yes,
just
please go ahead.
when I was growing up, right? My mom, in the house, we had a dining room and this big brown dining room table, right? And so my mom would always put together these puzzles, these, 1,000-piece puzzles or whatever, right? And so, sometimes I would come in, sit down with her, help her find pieces, things of that nature. And so she always had a box, right, the top of the box on the table, so that you kind of know what you're putting together, right? And so what I think about is all the things that you've gone through, right? All those losing your job, getting different jobs, right? Those are all pieces to the puzzle of what Max is supposed to be, right? And dude, I've been fired a lot, right? Because a lot of times I was a consultant, right? And the consultants are usually the first ones to go, right? So when I was going through it, I didn't understand. But each job that I had, that I did, I took something away that made me better, right? As a person. And I didn't realize it, right? And so those pieces of the puzzle that you're putting together, right? Those firings, those losing a job, those working for no money, right? Those things are really growing you and developing you. It ain't good when you go through it, right? It ain't good when you go through it, brother. But when you look back, right, those things are really helping you to become a better person and help you grow, right?
Yeah.
So that's
and that's like I agree with you 150% on that. And it is, we are a puzzle,
right,
coming together, and amalgamation of pieces kind of coming together, and
that's right.
Really amalgamation of things or experiences,
right?
Experiences that we have,
exactly,
or are supposed to have. Because I think even what you're doing, I think if you didn't have all those experiences, it would make you not a great coach, because you wouldn't be able to be relatable or be able to relate to as many people.
Right.
So kind of teaching or focusing back on this transitional thing and people kind of transitioning. sometimes it's tough, hard,
It is.
preparing or that transition emotionally. Mm-hmm. So how do you help people prepare? How do you help professionals prepare for like that second act of their life, like from an emotional level?
It is very, very difficult because it's like you're on one shoreline, right? And where you want to go is on the other shoreline, but between you is water, right? And there's no bridge, right? And so what's hard is you can kind of see what you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's over there. It's there. I see it, right? But the water's too deep, right? It's strong currents. How do I get over there, right? And so it doesn't happen overnight, right? Sometimes, Max, it doesn't even happen after a year, right? Yeah. But if you keep pursuing it, right, that opportunity will show up, right? And you got to say yes, right? No keeps you where you currently are. Yes changes you to another level, right? And so when you're scared, right? How am I going to make money? That's what I went through. How am I going to make money? What am I going to do? But I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to take people from where they are to where they want to go, right? But it was so frustrating, man. I mean, it was like I was lost. I was lost for a long time, right? Not knowing which direction I should be going, right? Yeah. And so it's difficult, and it hits you emotionally, right? Yeah. Because here in the United States, right, you got to be doing something, right? And if you got a family, stuff, you got to be doing something, right? Earning money, and so it's confusing emotionally, right? But if you keep pursuing it, right, the lights will start to come on. Mm-hmm. Things will start to make sense. And that's when you know you're moving in the right direction, right? The direction you want to go. Because it's probably the hardest thing I've ever been through, right? Because you don't know, right? What am I doing, right? And you're talking to people, and they're, well, maybe you need to just do this. It's like, that's not the answer I want, right? You just gotta try to figure it out yourself, but don't quit, right? Don't quit. Keep pushing. Keep asking yourself, what am I supposed to do? Ask the man upstairs, right? Yes. He'll tell you, right? He'll tell you. He'll give you a hint. God isn't going to give you, the answer in a package, Steve, this is it. This is what you're supposed to be doing. He's going to drop seeds, right? He's going to drop seeds. He's going to put people in your life. He's going to have you go to a different coffee house to get coffee, and you meet a person that you need to meet to move you to the next level. Or you see something on the billboard, or you hear something on the TV, right? And so all those are pieces, right, that brings everything together. And so you just got to keep going and just got to keep having faith. And so,
So you kind of brought all those pieces together. You kind of figured out, you kept going even though it was hard. And you decided to put together 1 million cups. And so tell us why you felt that Atlanta needed a 1 million cups chapter.
Right.
Well, talk about 1 million cups. Talk about what it is, and then let's go into that if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, I first discovered 1 million cups when I lived in Tampa, as I mentioned. And so I still didn't know what I wanted to do, right? But in going to that 1 million cups in Tampa, they also had a school where you can learn business, learn about marketing, accounting, all that stuff for free, right? And so when I came back to Atlanta, I said, okay, let me see if I could find a 1 million cups. And, of course, there was one in Fayetteville, right? And I started to go to that one. And so I kept saying, well, the biggest thing was I got lazy. I ain't want to keep driving. That's the truth, right? Yeah. That's the truth, right? So I said, why is there not a 1 million cups in Atlanta? Why I always got to drive to Fayetteville, right? And so there was one in Atlanta, but it failed,
Oh, wow.
right? And so I tried and I failed, right? Because somebody else was starting it, but they never really started it. And so I said, well, okay, let me give this another try, right? And so when I decided to give it another try, things worked out better, right?
Wow.
They told me what I needed to do. And so 1 Million Cups started in 2012, funded by an organization called the Kaufman Fund, right, out of Kansas City. And so their goal was to bring new business owners together over coffee to talk about connections, meeting people that can help your business. And so it has grown to I think it's over 100 communities,
Wow.
and about 24,000 entrepreneurs meet every Wednesday from 9 to 10, sometimes longer. And they go over, right? They talk about, you do a presentation and you talk about your business, and the community helps you.
Wow.
But the magic, Max, the magic is you may do a presentation, right? And somebody in that community says, hey, I got a friend that's looking for what you do. Let me connect you with that friend. Or, hey, we need to link up because I think if we work together, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
The internet's not going to do
right.
that, right? And so we have to get back to face talking, this is what I do. Let's work together. And so that's why I started. And I started the Atlanta. There was not one in Atlanta. And all the people I know in Atlanta have small businesses. There's not a weekly place to meet.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a need. And so I feel like I'm fulfilling that need. So,
Wow.
yeah.
No, that's great. That's great stuff. And how I think it's important for early stage entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And talk about how they can leverage something like 1 Million Cups properly. How can like people who want to get started, they're kind of pregnant with that thing and they kind of don't know where to go, but they gotta, how does 1 Million Cups kind of help to develop or foster that?
Two things that are very important. First, you need to present your business, right? And the presentations are only supposed to be 6 minutes, but a lot of times it goes longer. It goes longer because as the facilitator, after you do your presentation, I ask you, so how can the community help you, right? And then others will start saying, well, your website is okay, but you need to add this or you need to do this, right? And so the leverage comes where you come in, right, and you do a presentation on your business, which you got to do anyway, right? If people don't know who you are or what you do, right, why you even got a business, right? And so doing the presentation is big, and then also having those connections. You come in over coffee, donuts, whatever, and you talking to people, hey, what do you do? This is what I do. And that's where that connection is made. And it happens every week, every Wednesday, right? And so that gives you, because you never know who's going to be in the audience that is going to help your business. So.
Wow. No, I think that's an awesome thing. And I think in today's world, too many people feel like they got to do it alone or they got to do it themselves.
Exactly.
And that you need people. People make things faster, easier.
That's right.
Connecting and I think shared experiences are helpful because there's always something we can hear from somebody in a room and it could change the whole trajectory of everything you do.
Right. That's right.
By just
Max.
going in there and hearing what somebody else did that worked for them.
Right.
But sometimes it's just being with like-minded people.
That's it.
Because you don't always get to get that forum.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that forum is strong for entrepreneurs. You've got to be around other people who think like you do and who've taken that plunge like you have.
Exactly.
And there's this that iron sharpens iron thing.
Exactly. Because great things happen in the right environment, right?
Yeah.
It just happens. If you're in the right environment with like-minded people, like you said, guess what? Right? Things are going to happen. So that's why I decided to get a 1 Million Cups going in downtown Atlanta. And it seems like that with Atlanta Technical Village and them having new entrepreneurs, that it is just going to come together, I think, pretty well.
Yeah.
So
no, I think there's great synergy there. And so, Steve, I wanted you to kind of say, like, who needs your, as we're kind of wrapping up our segment here, who needs your coaching the most right now? Is it like retiring? Is that who could take advantage of it the most? People who are kind of like mid-career professionals, retiring executives or entrepreneurs feeling stuck?
Right. If you're couple things, right, and you want to do something with your life, but you're not exactly sure which direction to go, my coaching can help you. If you're at a job or fired from a job and you said, I need to do something else, right, I can help you move in that direction, right? Wow. If you just want to have a second career, but you're not sure what it is, I always do a discovery with my people, and that lays out everything, because I ask some pretty penetrating questions that they're like, nobody's ever asked me that. Well, we're doing discovery, right? We're trying to find out. And so, that's where I help people. And so in the business side is just, I just want to bring people together, get that connection, and help you to further your business. I'm one thing I've always remembered is that if you want to do something different in life, if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. Change begins with you. So,
all right, great stuff there. And we kind of, as we're closing out, we're kind of getting to this our Mind Your Minute segment. And so this is for your entrepreneurs out there. You've heard Stephen, a lot of good stuff here. And so I think I'm hearing what you're hearing. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to outgrow a version of yourself. You're allowed to pivot, even if it scares people. So your first career may pay your bills. Your second act may define your legacy. This week, reflect. Are you building income or are you building impact? Great question for you. Think about that. Stephen, listen, what's one final piece of advice for someone standing at a crossroads in life and to kind of like know where to go? How do you push them off the ledge?
What I like to say is today is yesterday's tomorrow. And so if you said that you're going to do something tomorrow, that will be today. Just do it. Just get it done.
Stephen, say that again. Let's say that one more time, okay?
Today is yesterday's tomorrow. You keep saying it to yourself, Max. It'll sink in.
I'm a little tickled. I'm going to take 60 seconds to talk about something my young son said to me that I would never forget. I just even mentioned this to him recently. He was saying that that's the thing that really is today's conversation. Real discipline builds success.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, purpose builds fulfillment.
Yes.
And you can lead corporations, you can manage millions. But true leadership is really helping others find direction. I think you're doing that. And so thank you for bringing both structure and heart to this conversation, man. It's been an amazing thing. Like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having the show today. So for our listeners who want to learn more about how to reinvent or get where they can find you, how can they find you? Get out of, if they're, like you said, more about trying to learn to reinvent themselves, where can they find you online?
My website for my coaching is Ayanda Life Coaching.
Okay, so spell that for everybody.
AYANDA Life, LIFE Coaching, COACHING.com.
All right, so now you gave us with the itchy cheese thing, or whatever.
itchy guy, man. Itchy guy.
So you got to explain Ayanda. What is that? What's the meaning?
So I haven't explained this in a while, but Ayanda is a African term, right? And so it means it was one of the tribes in Africa that that talks about changing your mindset or growing your mind. So
Wow, that's okay. I just need to know another thing. It's the powerful stuff there. But again, thanks for sharing where people can find you, and for all of you tuning in. If you want to keep up with me, Max Fortune, and stay connected with the Mind Your Business podcast, you can find me on all social media platforms at Mind Your Biz Expert, as well as on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. So make sure you subscribe, follow, and keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear from you. Submit your ideas for show segments, engage with the community, and let's continue building together. And until next time, stay sharp, stay focused, and always mind your business. See you in the next episode. Stephen, this is great. This was been a great conversation, man.
Yeah. I'm normally not a talker, but
oh my, good job. You did a great job. Good to see you. Are we out yet?